Good morning, everyone. The topic for today's session is health communication. Uh, uh, what we'll try to understand in this class is what exactly is communication, what are the various components of communication, right? And certain aspects of communication, like barriers of communication and all those things, and how communication is important in health education. This is what we will try to understand in today's class. Okay. And now communication as such is a two-way process, right? It's a process where you communicate. Communicate means where you exchange ideas, where you exchange information, your feelings, all those things. This is basically what is communication, right? In a broader sense, it refers to countless ways in which using which humans keep in touch with each other. This is communication. Now, coming to communication process refers to the various components that are needed for a proper communication. Right? It is a complex process. Now, if you look at this slide, it tells about the various components that are necessary for a successful communication. For example, take this session as an example. Right? For this session to happen, it requires a source, right? A sender of information, and at the other end, it requires a receiver, that is the audience. That forms the two ends of a communication process, right? You have a sender who sends the information, and then you have a receiver, that is the audience who receives the information. Now, the other components are the first, the third component would be the message that the sender sends to the receiver. That forms the third component. And the next important component will be the channel through which the message is sent, right? And the final, most important, when it comes to health education, is feedback, right? What the receiver feels, right? The message goes from the sender to the receiver. The feedback goes from the receiver to the sender. If you look at this diagram here, you will understand. On the two ends of this communication process, you have a sender at one end and the receiver at the other end. Now, what the sender sends is a message. The sender sends a message to the receiver, and it is sent through a proper channel. And at the end of the communication process or the health education session, you will get feedback that is from the receiver back to the sender. And now, through this communication, what changes do we see in the receiver? That is, either there will be awareness in the receiver, or you can evaluate at the end of it, or certain behaviors will be adopted, and behavioral changes can be seen. Okay, now we look at one components one by one. Now, the sender is the one who originates the message. Okay. Now, to be a effective communicator, an effective when if you take a health education session as an example, now for a sender to be an effective sender, he should know his objectives first, right? He should know his topic, what he is talking on. The objective should be very clear. And the second thing is he should know who his audience are, right? That again becomes very important, because different audience needs different types of message, right? Not all audience are not same. So the message, the formation of the message, your designing of the message depends on your the audience, right? The third thing is the sender should plan his message properly, should choose his channel of communication properly, and he should know his abilities and his limitations. This is about the sender. Now we look at the other end, that is the receiver, right? The receiver means it's the audience. In this session, it is you people from the receiver end, right? So again, when we talk about receiver, there are two types of audiences, right? You have a controlled audience, you have an uncontrolled audience. Now, for example, if you take a classroom, if you look at this session, then all the students, they fall under controlled audience. Controlled audience means the audience there will have a common interest, right? In a classroom, the students form a controlled audience. They all have come there for studying, for learning, right? So they're a homogeneous group, and they have a common interest, so it is very easy to control or to teach or to communicate with a controlled audience. Now, what is an uncontrolled audience? Uncontrolled audience basically gathers for the sake of curiosity. Now, if you look at a flash mob or a role play in the in the middle of a busy market, right? Inside a mall, all of a sudden, right? There is a lot of noise, and suddenly people gather out of curiosity. Not everyone will be interested in the topic of your flash mob or in the topic of your role play, right? Everyone won't be interested. But they have gathered there just out of curiosity. So it is very difficult to communicate to an uncontrolled audience. So this is regarding the receiver end. You have a controlled audience and an uncontrolled audience. So here it says that the more homogeneous the audience, the more effective will be the communication. That is, if it's a controlled audience, you can communicate in a better way, right? Okay. Now the third component is the message. The message is nothing but the information which the communicator transmits to its audience, right? It's the information. Now, what is a good message? Again, uh, every session will have an objective. What you are supposed to teach, right? What knowledge you want to impart on your audience, right? Now, a good message should be in line with these objectives. A good message should be meaningful. It should be based on the felt needs of the audience. If you talk about something that is irrelevant to the audience, they won't be interested. They won't listen to you. But if you talk about something that is relevant to them, now, for example, if your audience is a group of antenatal mothers, right? Then if you talk about some random issues, they won't be interested. Rather, if you talk about maternal nutrition, how to take care of a newborn, how if you talk about immunization for for a child under 1 year of age, right? If you talk about all these topics, then they will be interested. That is their felt need, right? So you should identify the felt need of your audience, and then you should design your message based on these felt needs, so that becomes a good message. Again, it should be clear, it should be understandable, it should be specific, accurate. Time management is very important, and it should be adequate, neither too much nor too less, right? There is an attention span for every audience, right? More than 20 minutes, no one it won't be that effective anymore, right? So it should be adequate, it should be interesting, and finally, very important thing is, it should be culturally and socially acceptable. Once you go for an health education session, that is, once you go at the community level, then this culturally and socially being acceptable, it becomes very important. Now, the fourth component is the channel, right? We talked about the channel. Channel is nothing but the media through which the message is sent from the sender to the receiver. Now, some of the types systems of this channel is, you have interpersonal communication, mass media, and traditional and folk media. What is interpersonal communication? It is one of the most common channel of communication, right? Any now, for example, a lecture class, right? A demonstration. All these are interpersonal, or an interview, or a patient coming to you to an OPD. That also forms and comes under and you trying to educate the patient about any issue, that becomes interpersonal communication. It is face to face, it is personal, it is direct. So since it is face to face, it is more persuading, more influencing. You can influence the receiver or the audience in an effective way. The desirable changes can be seen in an effective way, right? It is more important in influencing the decisions of an undecided person. Now, regarding any topic, if the audience is undecided whether to choose it or not, then interpersonal communication becomes more effective in this case. Folk media is nothing but this becomes more important in the rural point of view. In rural areas, if you use the folk art of that particular area and try to fit in your topic of um, health education to that, and show it to them, then they may appreciate it better, they may follow it, right? Then that is how you use folk media. And finally, you have mass media. Mass media is nothing but using of TV, radio, printed material, right? You see those many ads related to health, the polio ads or the TB ad related to TB. All these are usage of mass media to put out your health education information, right? One of the advantages that it will reach a very large amount of population, right? Compared to interpersonal. Interpersonal is usually one to one or a small group, say 20, 30, a small group of people, right? Uh, it is effective, yes, but the audience it reaches is very small, whereas mass media reaches to a very large amount of number of population. But the drawback here is mass media is a one-way channel, right? The fifth component of your communication process was feedback. Feedback is something that the audience gives back to the sender, right? Uh, After listening to the message, the feedback part of it goes back to the sender. So this helps in improving the message or improving the communication in the next session, right? So this helps the sender to improve his health education style or health education medium or material, anything. This feedback is missing in mass media, right? You see an ad in the television, that's it. There is no feedback going back from you to the sender, right? It is basically center to periphery, and feedback mechanism is poor, as I already described. Okay, and coming to the last component of communication process, that is feedback, right? Flow of information from the audience to the sender. Uh, the message that the sender gives out, it may be accepted or it may be rejected, right? But if it is, even if it is accepted or rejected, a feedback mechanism will help the sender to improve his message next time, so that it becomes more acceptable, right? He can know what his mistakes were with the feedback. Okay. Now, the ultimate goal of this communication is to bring changes in desired direction, right? Now, the changes may be cognitive changes, affective changes, or psychomotor changes. Now, what are these changes? Cognitive refers to just increase in knowledge, right? You're just imparting knowledge. That's it. That's an health education session. You're educating them about something, about maybe dengue, malaria, how mosquitoes breed. It's just an education, right? This level of change is called as cognitive level. Effective is you are changing their behavior. It may be regarding cleanliness around your house, uh, in order to reduce the breeding of mosquitoes, right? Their whole behavior and their whole attitude should change. Quitting of your quitting of smoking, all those things, it forms and comes under effective. And then you have psychomotor change, that is, if you help your audience to acquire new skills, that change is called a psychomotor. So these are the changes, right? Cognitive is just increase in knowledge. You have affective, where you change the behavior or attitude of your audience. And then psychomotor, where you help them in acquiring new skills. This is the ultimate goal of any communication process. Now, coming to the types of communication. Okay. First, what you saw was what is communication process. Now we look at the types of communication. Basically, there are many you can classify it under many side headings. One would be, you can broadly classify them into one-way communication and a two-way communication, right? Now, a one-way communication is also called as didactic method. This name is very important. Okay, one-way communication is also called as didactic. Here it is nothing but you can for example, you can take a lecture class as an example for this, right? Here a lecturer speaks and the audience listens, right? That's it. It's a one way communication. That is, there is no two-way exchange of ideas, right? The lecturer is speaking to you and you are listening, right? So the knowledge here is imposed. In one way communication or in didactic method, the knowledge is imposed, the learning is authoritative, right? Audience participation is very much limited. And one more thing is, there is again, when it is one way, obviously feedback is very poor, right? And it won't influence human behavior. The knowledge will improve, but the behavioral change, it is very difficult to see in a one way communication. That is also called as didactic. Now, which is the other part of this? It is two-way communication. Two-way communication is also called as Socratic communication, right? Two-way. Here, even the audience will take part in the communication process. So, you can influence the behavioral change in a better way. Okay. The other classifications would be verbal communication and non-verbal. Verbal is what we use in our day-to-day life, right? Usage of words, usage of words to communicate. That is verbal. Non-verbal would be using body movements, gestures, facial expressions to uh, convey your information, right? Convey your to communicate. Using of body movements or facial gestures to communicate would be non-verbal communication. And third, way of classifying would be formal and informal. Formal means there is a proper guideline, right? It follows a proper authority. There's a proper guideline that becomes formal communication, and then you have informal communication, right? Gossips, all those things. It becomes informal. Formal would be a example. Your class that we take, like the classes, would be formal communication. Your gossips, all this come under non-formal communication, right? Now here you can see one more type of classification, that is, mm, communication can be again divided in this way also. You have downward communication, upward communication, and horizontal communication. This is basically with reference to organizational hierarchy. Okay, if you imagine an organization, then in this the way they communicate with would be a, in the direction of the hierarchy. Now downward means it starts from the top management. The communication starts from the top management and flows downwards, right? Your top CEO of an organization or MD of an organization, it generates from there the information, and it flows downwards. So it may be in terms of orders, directives, instructions, right? It flows downwards. Upward communication means what the workers send back, that may be reports, suggestions, complaints, right? This is an example for upward communication. Okay. uh, then you have horizontal communication. Horizontal communication is nothing but it is between individuals of equal status, right? Okay, now this is with reference to organizational hierarchy. The next topic is barriers of communication. Now, health education may fail due to communication barriers between the sender and the receiver, that is the speaker and the audience. There will be certain barriers in between them, which will result in the failure of your health education session, right? Mm, so you can see here some of the types of barriers are: you have physiological barriers, psychological barriers, you have environmental barriers, and cultural barriers. Now what do you understand by this? Physiological barrier means the problem is in the physiology, that is, examples may be difficulty in hearing, right? The audience, it may be a personal, interpersonal, one-to-one communication, but the the audience member cannot hear you properly, right? His hearing is defective, so that becomes physiological. It's an example for physiological barrier. Second is psychological barrier. Psychological barrier refers to emotional disturbances in the audience, right? Language difficulties, comprehension difficulties. The levels of intelligence may be different of the speaker and of the audience, right? These are some of the psychological barriers that will affect the communication. Third is the environmental barrier. It may be example may be noise, right? Visibility. If the audience cannot see you properly, a dim room. Health education session being taken place in a dim room. The audience is not able to. You are demonstrating something, but the audience is not able to see you clearly, right? Or heavy background noise, right? Imagine a classroom where the lecturer is teaching you, and you have heavy background outdoor noise, right? It will affect the communication process, right? So these are some of the environmental barriers. And finally you have the cultural barriers. Cultural barriers refers to uh, the customs and beliefs of the speaker and the audience may be different, right? The illiteracy level in the audience or the level of knowledge may be different, right? Again, cultural difficulties, language difficulties, right? Social class differences may be there, and there may be difference between urban education and the rural population, right? These are some of the cultural barriers. Barrier is nothing but the difficulties faced, right? For this communication, the difficulties that the communication process faces when it travels from a sender to an audience, right? Okay. Next we will talk about the functions of health communication. Okay. uh, One of the primary function of health communication is to provide information, right? It is the one of the primary function is to provide information, that is to educate, right? uh, by providing information you can eliminate certain ignorance that we see in your audience group, or certain misconceptions can be corrected, right? it will increase the overall awareness of your audience population, and it may influence them to change their behavior also, right? The second function of health communication is to provide education. Okay, education means it will increase knowledge in general. The third function of health communication is motivation. Motivation is that it's the power that drives a person from within to act upon the problem, right? uh, you motivate your audience to if it is a session uh, to quit smoking, you motivate first. You provide information regarding the session, right, regarding health hazards of smoking and all those things. You educate them, and then you motivate them to bring about the change, that is quitting smoking, right? Next function is persuasion. Persuasion is the art of winning friends and influencing people. You influence them. Persuading means you are influencing them, right? Okay. Persuasion, if you look at the definition of persuasion, persuasion means it is a conscious attempt by an individual to change or influence the general beliefs, understandings, values, and behavior of another individual or group of individuals in some desired way, right? You are uh, you are trying to influence them so that they change their behavior, right? Okay. The next function of health communication is counseling. Now, counseling is a process that can help people to understand better and to communicate better with whom they are emotionally involved. Okay, by emotionally involved means the counselor, that is the health educator, should gain the trust of the audience. Should listen to the audience sympathetically, should understand their feelings, and then they counsel. They counseling is nothing but in one of the function is motivating the audience group, right? So counseling is nothing but you reinforce this motivation so that the behavioral change is seen. Now, counseling is different from advising. Okay, the word is different. Now, counseling and advising, the main difference is that in counseling it is more of choice and less of force, right? You tell the audience group, the target group, about the do's and don'ts, the good thing and the bad thing. You educate them, and it becomes their choice, right? Counseling is more of a choice given to them. Okay. uh, the next function of health communication is to raise morale of the target group. The next function is health development. Because of this health education, health communication, we see an overall improvement in the improvement or development in the health. And finally, health communication will help in health organizations. Health organizations, one of the main one of the main aspect of any health organization is communication, right? You need to communicate with your audience. Now, again, communication in health organization, as you already told before, it may be vertical or it may be horizontal, right? Vertical will be according to organizational hierarchy from top to bottom, or horizontal is between equals in any organization. Okay. Now, so these are the functions. It's mainly health communication will provide information regarding topic of interest, right? It will provide education. You can motivate your audience group, right? You can persuade them, and you can counsel them, right? So that certain behavioral changes are seen, right? You can raise the overall morale of the audience group. Then it will also lead in health development in general. Okay, so these are the functions of health communication. So this is regarding health communication. In the coming sessions, we will look at how this health communication can be used in providing health education. Okay, I hope the topic of health communication was clear. Yeah, thank you.